Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, and I'm Meghna Deka. And welcome to the Banana Republic of RWAs. They are there to help the residents, but often they become a law unto themselves. After all, who gave the RWAs the right to knock on your door, to enter your home, to question whom you meet, what you do, and how you live? Well, this is about power, it's about position, but without legal authority. Well, tonight we are going to tell you what happens when the law meets the RWA patrol parties. It is all something which started in the city of Bengaluru, where the dark night rises. It's all based on a Reddit post. A young law student says that she was hosting her friends at her own flat, that there was no disturbance. She says that there were no complaints. It insists that there were no crimes being committed. She was there at her home with her friends when a group of self-appointed Uncle G Patrol, as she calls them, arrives. They barged into her house allegedly and enforced moral policing. Well, this is a post which has now gone viral by a user who used the RWA uncles, who has now sued the RWA uncles for 62 lakh rupees for defamation for trespass, allegedly. So what really happened? This is what the post says. This is a Reddit post, and the girl says, and I'm going to show you an AI-generated representative video of what seems to have happened. Well, there was a young girl. She allegedly hosted 5 of her friends. They were there having a good time on a Saturday dinner. There were 4 men and 1 friend, a female friend, who were there on a Saturday night get-together. They were cooking, and allegedly they were simply chatting. She shared that neither she nor her friends were causing a nuisance. They're not being loud, they're not playing loud music, that it was just a quiet get-together at her flat. Then she says that their peace was very short-lived, that the law student alleged that she heard a knock on the door, and it was an uncle who allegedly declared that bachelors were not allowed in the society. He then allegedly demanded that she call the owner of the flat, at which she asserted that he was talking to the owner of the flat because she owned the flat, her father owned the flat, and she shut the door in the man's face. Now, this is a graphical representation by this Reddit post which says that she shut the door on his face. Then things were only about to escalate. She stated that after her brief interaction with this man, there were 4-5 other Uncle G's who showed up at her doorstep, is what she claims. She says that they accused the students of drinking and of smoking. In fact, as per her, they entered her living room, barged into her living room, even though they did not get permission to walk into her house. She alleged that the group trespassed to allegedly come and check, and further demanded that she vacate the house the very next day. This was when a minor scuffle also broke out, when one of the uncles was allegedly slapped by one of her male friends. And in the process then, the board members called the police, who then arrived at the scene to assess the situation. Well, this is what happened after the police arrived. This is again quoting her post. This Reddit user has put out that the police asked who owns the flat, to which she says, I do. She then goes on to say that she didn't show the papers because we were not being a nuisance, that they had no right to enter her home without any kind of permission. She says that the incident was all recorded on CCTV cameras as well. She's got proof of that, saying that we are law students, which is why the cops were not being arbitrary and they were not being shady. She claims that unfazed by the intimidation by these uninvited men, she refused to back down. In fact, after that, she alleges that she also sent a legal notice to the society to remove these people. Not just that, the girl then contacted a lawyer to understand her legal options based on the lawyer's advice. She then filed a 62 lakh rupee civil suit for defamation, for trespass, for assault, for battery, for stalking, nuisance, as well as violation of a right to privacy. And that's the claim. So, as per this post, and there was an update on that post as well on Reddit, it says that the trespassers were then sacked from their posts. That these RWA uncles were fined 20,000 rupees each. Then she claims that there was a written apology as well, which was issued. Despite that, she has also slapped a 62 lakh civil defamation suit against these 4-5 people. So viewers, you saw the sequence of the events as claimed by this user on Reddit, but this begs the pertinent question about what RWAs can do, cannot do. While we cannot independently verify if these claims made by this Reddit post are true or not, what we do know now is that there is indeed a big tussle that we have seen in several of the RWAs between what your rights are and what the RWA thinks you can do. Which is why we are breaking it down for you, tell you what the RWA can do and what the RWA cannot do. What the RWA can do is manage common areas. What they cannot do is moral policing of what you are doing, what you're not doing. What they can do is ensure that there are maintenance charges which are collected. What they can't do is impose any curfews or shut the gates at specific times. What RWAs can do is community activities that they can organize. What they can't do is question your personal relationships and what you are doing in your own home. What they can do is hire security guards. What they can't do is detain or interrogate anyone. And definitely no physical violence can be permitted, because this is not the banana republic of RWAs. RWAs, societies, everyone will function within the framework of law. Now viewers, we are going to tell you more about your legal rights with respect to RWAs, because at the end of it, you must know what your rights are. Remember, the RWA office bearers are personally liable for their actions. There are also civil and criminal cases which may be applicable to them in certain cases. Courts can stop unlawful actions and any kind of written commands by these RWAs as well. Legal remedies are available to all the residents. In an ideal world, the RWA is going to be working for you, being your voice, will be representing you. But then again, if they are not, it's important for you to know what you can do in your own house and what your rights are. After all, the Lakshman Rekha has been crossed by RWAs on more than one occasion. Let's remind you how in some of these cases, the courts themselves have wrapped the RWA for their overreach. In 2025, there was an FIR which was filed against RWA. This was Providence Sunworth City in Bengaluru. The reason for that was they were allegedly collecting illegal fines and detaining residents there. Again, in 2025, RWA registration was axed by the courts. Why? Because it was about celebrity. This was in the Celebrity Green FNG RWA in Lucknow. The reason for that was they were illegally collecting funds from the residents. Then the police, in one of the cases in 2025, blocked RWA imposed fine. This was in Princess Park of RWA in Faridabad. The reason for this was they are not allowed to collect fines for feeding strays, as they were doing in the RWA. Again, in the Supreme Court, it had axed eviction by RWA. This was in Mumbai. The reason was that because they allegedly were collecting arbitrary fines and they were forcing eviction, which the RWA, remember, does not have the power to do legally. Also, again, police had intervened in the Alaknanda apartments, RWA in Delhi. The reason for this was a scuffle which we saw between residents and security guards over parking. There are reasons why we have RWAs, and there are reasons why you should be aware of what your own rights are. Because viewers, many of the netizens have been hailing the action of this young girl on Reddit who claims to be ANANYX Gupta in this entire RWA saga. Let's tell you some of the comments which have been coming in from netizens. Now, we can't tell you if this story really is going to check out, but what's interesting is the response that it has elicited from people across India. There is one netizen who says that this young girl is a dark night against society uncles. Then there is another one who has said, Sabka badla legi, ye tera Gen Z. Third one who says, no one can barge into someone's house. Another person has posted on social media saying, hope this case is used as an example in future. Then there are those who are saying, kudos to this girl, because this is all due to outdated mindset which halts progress of the society. This shows that there is a lot of generation, a lot of resonance, if you can say it, which has been found in the society after what many have called out the Banana Republic of RWAs. Let me go across to our panelists. Today joining us on the show, we have Abha Singh, lawyer and an activist. Dr. Divya Karan is also joining us. Divya Karan Jeevan, who is a social worker and a social worker professor. I'm going to first come to you, Abha Singh. It's very interesting. We've never really thought about those who are supposed to help us, aid us, protect us, may just turn out to be giving unsolicited advice, moral policing, and in some cases detainments and literally breaking the laws. Where is the Lakshman Rekha here, legally speaking?
Very true. You cannot enter anybody's house like that. That is criminal trespass. You cannot ask anyone in his own home to ask the guest to go if he's entertaining, if she's entertaining. So that is criminal intimidation. These are all, these are all crimes under the BNS. And in fact, the punishment, of course, is not too much, 6 months to 1 year. But nonetheless, nobody has a business to enter your own home and say that you tell your guests to go or tell you not to party. So I think this moral policing, it's very good that this girl has had the courage to go out. And I think it's brilliant that she's not gone for an FIR, because the moment you go for the criminal case, then you transfer the agency to the police. And we know how the system is, how corrupt the system is, or how politicians intervene, and then they get a bail immediately. And the offences here are, which I was seeing, criminal trespass, criminal intimidation, they're all bailable offences. But by filing a compensation, by filing a defamation, by filing a 62 lakh compensation, I think Gen Z needs to be applauded, because this is where it is going to hurt them the most. The society realized, the RWA realized that they've done a wrong thing. That's why they asked these members, so position holders, to step down. They imposed a fine of 20,000. I think they were trying to appease this girl because she has all the evidence on the CCTV footage, and this is what the courts want, because ultimately you have to say that how defamatory it was, how your right to privacy has been violated, how you were criminally intimidated. So she has a very good case of getting the compensation. It may not be 62 lakhs, but nonetheless, she would get a very good amount. And also, it would be a message to all these moral policing uncles, as you rightly said, that what the Gen Z is saying, that these nosy uncles who come into your house, barge into your house and violate your privacy. And this is happening everywhere. I was handling a matter in Navi Mumbai where the residents, the RWA was not allowing dog feeders to get their servants inside, their helps, because these dog feeders were not feeding at the assigned place. That is fine. You can stop me from feeding at anywhere in the society. Right. But how can you stop my house help, my driver from entering the society, saying, because I'm a dog feeder? High Court took a very strong stand and penalized the RWA. So that is what I'm trying to say, that this girl will create an awareness. People will ensure that societies do not boss over them and they don't do their work. If they are saying you're renting a house, you will have to give money. If you are, selling your flat, then you give a commission. They can't take commission. All they can take is maintenance, which you have rightly said. And hats off to you for telling people these rights. I think Times Now is doing a wonderful thing.
Well, thank you so much, Abha Singh, because the minute this story came up in the newsroom as well, it found so much of resonance. We are trying to track down this girl, the one who's put out the Reddit post, because it has evoked the sense of every one of us thinking, what really are our rights? Most people are not aware of where to draw that line when it comes to the RWA. It's not just about this girl. It's about each and every one of us who lives in a society, has to deal with these RWA, uncle patrol, as she calls them. But Dr. Jeevan, apart from this girl, there is a problem with the RWA patrols which are happening. And unfortunately, it is the younger ones, at least in our newsroom, it is the younger ones who say that they are being targeted specifically when they are bachelors, especially young girls who are living there, and married couples not so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. You know, I'm going to add uncles and aunties. All right, because there are a lot of, this is a huge problem in the city, and I do not understand why nobody has the moral right to come into my house and tell me what I'm doing, as long as I'm within the law, I'm within the framework of the law. See, I've been a victim of this kind of a lifestyle at one point of time when I was a college student, coming and telling us we didn't do any mistake. But they think that they have the law in their hands, come into our homes and barge at us and tell us things that are not right. Now, this culture has been, it's like a poison, actually, you know, and I've been noticing, I'm a professor, I was a professor of a college, and I know many of my students have come and told me, sir, the neighborhood auntie or the neighborhood uncle shouts at us for simple things. My friends come home for dinner, they have a problem. We go out to, you know, to a little coffee shop, they have a problem. We walk as gang in the road, they have a problem. So then this kind of a culture is creeping into our system, and this is really, really disturbing. And I'm very glad about this girl who's come out very strongly, both with the legal case and also very, very strongly vocal about this issue, because this kind of a culture has to stop. People should learn to mind their own business and respect the privacy of the other people, until it is anti, you know, against the system or against a certain law. Then yes, again, we don't have the rights. We need to follow the law, maybe inform the police or, you know, do something like that. But nobody has the moral right to go into somebody else's house and tell them what to do. And I think this is very, very wrong. This is a very, very bad culture that is in our system. And old uncles and aunties, with all respect to them in terms of their age, must understand the world is changing, you know, and if you don't condemn, educate them. I'm a teacher. I have educated my students and told them, well, you know what, maybe you should behave like this, maybe you should behave like that in a system when you live in a community. So I think education is more important than going and telling somebody. And you know, what audacity for these five uncles to get into the house. And I mean to say, whether I have a bachelor friend or a spinster friend, my house is my private place. And it's my right to do what I want to do. Yes.
And you put it very well. It's time that we educate instead of try and put and moral police the youngsters, because yes, with every right there is a duty. You cannot play loud music which is disturbing other people in early hours, but there are specific laws about it. But Abha Singh, it's not just restricted to the RWAs. This kind of moral policing, it's symptomatic, isn't it, of the larger generational shift that we have seen, where a lot of youngsters feel that they are being misrepresented and they are being targeted for their life choices.
Meghna, you're very right. In fact, you see these unmarried boys or girls, nobody wants to give them house on rent. Then the food preferences, if you're a non-vegetarian, they don't want in a Jain society and things like that. So I definitely feel that this generational shift which is happening, I mean, the new generation, we have to accept them, that they are economically independent, they know their mind. And when Supreme Court, a 9-bench judgment in Putta Swamy says right to privacy is a fundamental right, why my choices, my preferences in my own home cannot be questioned. They cannot be, you know, the right wingers or left wingers or any ideology. Nobody can barge in and question me in my own four walls. So I think that the Supreme Court has put a stamp on it, that right to privacy is fundamental. So nobody can be above law. And I think this girl has clearly shown that. And yes, and this footage exposes this generation which is retired, which is idle, which is thinking that it is going to monitor the youth. Then I would like to tell them, you're sadly mistaken. There is a law of the land. If they are violating the law, you're free. Yes, after 10 p.m., if there is loud music, you can call the police. They will come and shut it. They will take the instrument away. But if they are within their house, they are partying, they are eating non-veg, they are even romancing, that is their choice. Nobody can come forward. It cannot be either a nosy uncle or a nosy auntie or a person who's living on that, troubling your neighbors.
Absolutely.
You cannot do that. Live peacefully. Otherwise, and one more thing, this is very prevalent in the West, that they immediately sue you. So this compensation, Indians don't do it, that is why they suffer. I think we must do this, all of us should do it, and that is how people...
That's a very important point, because Abha Singh, we are not independently verifying this Reddit post. However, it is an eye-opener for many people, including me, that there are legal recourses, and not just legal recourses. There can be compensation sought if your right to privacy is being violated. I think that's the big takeaway of it. Thank you so much, Abha Singh, as well as Dr. Jeevan, for putting all of this into perspective. Well, perhaps times of change also need change in the mindsets itself. The nosy RWA uncles, aunties have been put on alert and on notice by the Gen Z. Well, of course, it's a generational war, perhaps. But at the end of it, let law prevail, not arbitrary rules. We'll wrap up on that. Thank you so much for watching. A short break. Don't go anywhere.